long time ago, my grandfather, Harry John Score, fired up my imagination and instilled in me a deep love for history with countless stories of his past. Now, I am a grandfather with stories of my own to share with my granddaughter Hannah. Oh, and now with the help of the World Wide Web, I can share them with you. Simple little tales of life from years and years ago. My father was not much for hobbies or sports. I suppose when you have a career that requires 14-hour workdays 365 days a year, there isn't much time or energy left for any kind of avocation. Running a dairy farm back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s allowed just enough time after work for eating supper, watching a couple hours of TV, and mercifully, a few hours of sleep before starting the next day at 4 a.m. However, he did develop, out of necessity, an affinity for hunting raccoons. The little buggers were hell on our corn crop. Actually, they were hell on everyone's corn crop. And after alfalfa weevils and white-tailed deer were probably the worst agricultural pests in the town of Montgomery up until the rabies pandemic of the 80s and 90s. The old man soon became the neighborhood's hired gun. He became hell on raccoons. How he managed to get involved in all this, I'll never really know. 3 or 4 nights a week, he would be off to the woods and cornfields chasing these confounded critters. Yes, at night. Raccoons, as you know, are nocturnal animals, and at night is the only time you can catch them. It sure as hell wasn't my sport. I had absolutely no interest in running around the woods at night. Tried it once. Did not feel the love, the excitement, nor the adventure of it. If it was up to me, I'd just stop growing corn and maybe these little 4-legged varmints would just go away. Anyway, I was off the hook for this one. My 2 older brothers seemed to think it was fun, so they got involved. Now, certain things you needed for this endeavor. First, sorry civilized suburbanites, you needed a gun. After all, the whole point of this was extermination. A shotgun would do. Second, obviously, since this was a nighttime affair, you needed a good flashlight. Finally, you needed a good hunting dog, and in this case, a good hunting dog that specialized in hunting raccoons. You needed a raccoon hunting dog, which is commonly known in the sport as a coon dog. And as I've mentioned before, my father was a wheeler-dealer in animals, so over the years we always had a coon dog or two. They were unique canines. They were keen on the scent of raccoons. And if their prey happened to be out at night, which of course they were, it wouldn't be long before the dogs had them on the run. They could easily track them through fields, woods, swamps, and even across ponds in the dark. They had a special bark when they picked up the scent and a special howl when they ran one up a tree. A good dog would never get too far away and would always come back if they lost the scent. Occasionally, if a dog wasn't up to snuff, it would run off and it could be a day or two before we found it. Occasionally, one would never be found, and occasionally, one would have a serious shortcoming, as one particular dog had, as I remember. It was gun shy. Not a good thing for a dog to be in this particular sport. That dog had no problems chasing a raccoon up a tree, but the abrupt, sharp boom of a 12-gauge shotgun sent him frantically yelping off into the night. Surprisingly and fortunately, they found him the next morning hiding in the barn. Now, under normal circumstances, if a dog or a cow or any animal didn't perform up to Team Score family standards, it quickly became a free agent and would be gone in the next trade. But this particular hound was a pretty good hunter, so my father was willing to give it another chance if it could get over the fear of shotgun blasts. And that's where I came in. Later that next morning, at the front door of the barn, my father handed me the dog on a leash and a shotgun. He pointed to a fence post on a hill about 100 yards away. "Take this dog up there," he says. "Tie him to that fence post and fire off the shotgun until he's used to it." Well, I didn't say anything, even though I had a bad feeling about that idea, but the old man was the boss, so I did what I was told. It all went pretty well as the dog happily trotted along behind me, and he was just fine as I tied my end of the leash to the fence post. Then I pulled the trigger, and the whole thing went south. Actually, the dog went north, more like flew, back to the barn, along with the fence post and about 30 feet of barbed wire still nailed to it. He never slowed down until he, the fence post, and most of the barbed wire were safely hiding in a box stall at the back of the barn. That afternoon, that gun-shy coon dog became a free agent. That evening, at the supper table, my father announced the dog would be gone in a major train the next morning, as my brothers and I quickly ate our meal. And that was years and years ago.